Hello and welcome to another week of meals. This one's a bit long, but I hope you guys enjoy the 4 meals I have to share with you today. Starting off with it's really a pasta dish that I'm going to cook with a meat sauce. And I'm making some zoodles here since I do low carb. So I'm just using my little spiralizer to make my zoodles with 2 zucchini. To make the meat sauce, I am taking a bit of onion. I remembered I had some leftover red onion and I just decided to add that instead of chopping up a whole new onion. And to the onion, I am going to add some sliced mushrooms. Going to the stove now, I'm heating up some extra virgin olive oil, and then I'm going to saute and sweat out the onion and then add the mushrooms to get the sauce started. Give it a little stir. Add some seasoning, salt, pepper. I've got my favorite powders, onion powder and garlic powder. And then I'm also going to add some oregano since it's like an Italian meat sauce or Italian style meat sauce. Give it a whiff to make sure it smells good. And then I am adding some leftover pre-browned ground beef that I had in the fridge. I'm using this jarred sauce from Aldi. It is an excellent dupe, I guess you could call it, for the Rao's marinara sauce, macros wise, and it tastes really good. Also super, super affordable if you don't want to spend that money on the Rao's. And I'm just adding a bit of water to the jar here, giving it a shake so I don't waste any of that yummy sauce. Now I like my sauce a tiny bit sweet, so I'm going to add some sweetener. This is monk fruit sweetener. It's the Lakanto brand, but you can use whatever you like, or don't add sweetener at all. And a bit of ketchup. Going to give that a stir and a taste, just to make sure I'm happy with the way the spices are. Adding more garlic powder, onion powder, and a little bit more sweetener. One more taste, and when I'm satisfied with that, I'm just going to turn the heat down and then just let it simmer so that the flavors can kind of meld together. On to the next part of this dinner. I am making some garlic bread. That is not a giant cube of butter. That's just a very, very tiny pan. I thought I'd have some fun and do a little time lapse here of melting butter. And normally I would do this in a larger pan so that I could just dip the bread in it, but I'm just doing it this way since I'm prepping this ahead of time in the morning. Added some minced garlic, as much garlic as you like. Try to get it pretty finely minced. And then I'm turning the heat off actually now that the butter is melted, and just let that infuse. This is the solidified butter that I took out of the refrigerator, and I just kind of spread it on the bread to let it soften before I spread it over the bread smoothly. You can see there's a little bit of the garlic bits in there, and then that's going to go into the broiler for just a few minutes. There's my blanched zoodles. Do it to however, the texture that you like. I like mine with a little bit of bite, so just did it for like a minute or two. The meat sauce, a little bit of shredded sharp cheddar, and some mozzarella cheese. And that's not mozzarella, that's Parmesan. And that is my dinner right here. Guys did it on regular pasta. You'll see that in a second. But it was really, really yummy. And there's the guys with, I used radiatore pasta and served with that garlic bread. You can see those little bits of garlic. And that was our dinner. So delicious. Next night, I decided to do a shrimp taco kind of thing. The aioli that I'm using is a chipotle aioli from Aldi. I'm kind of doctoring this up, kind of thinning it out so it's not super strong, I guess you could say. Adding some sour cream, and then I'm going to just give it a taste to see if I like that. You can make it a little bit more of a dressing, kind of a sauce if you like. You can add either heavy cream or some milk, half and half maybe, and then I added some lime to that just to give it a little zing. Set it aside in the fridge and moved on to crushing up some pork rinds here. I'm using the it's pre-cooked shrimp with a tail on. I thought I had raw shrimp in the freezer, but it was already pre-cooked. But no matter, I just need to crush up the pork rinds and then coat the shrimp, and then I'm gonna just give that a little toss on top of the stove to quote-unquote fry it up a little bit. So in the bowl, the shrimp is defrosting at the moment, just doing a quick defrost. I take the pork rinds, put it in a large Ziploc bag, and I'm just taking a rolling pin and crushing it down as finely as possible so that it's a little bit easier to coat the shrimp. Now I'm using pork rinds here because, again, I do low carb keto, but if you don't, and if you don't want to use pork rinds, you can absolutely use like panko bread crumbs would be delicious, or just regular breadcrumbs, or you can use like a flour or maybe a tempura, whatever batter you'd like. Taking 2 eggs, whisking them here, and then I'm just going to coat the shrimp. I took all the tails off. And this is just to help the pork rinds stick a little bit better. I'm going to do this like shake and bake style. It's a little bit of a delicate operation. The pork rinds don't coat the shrimp perfectly, I guess you could say, but I did my best, and it's just to give it a little bit of texture. Removing them from the bag carefully, and then I'm going to go ahead and finish up all the shrimp so that I can use up as much of the pork rinds as possible, and the shrimp is coated as well as I can possibly get them. You can do this in a bowl, and dredge it that way, but I'm just using the Ziploc bag. Okay, once the last shrimp is out of the bag, I'm going to take these to the stovetop to do a little frying. You can see they don't coat perfectly well. but as I said, it's just really for the texture. I'm not going to fry these very long because the shrimp is already cooked and I don't want them to get too rubbery and hard. So I'm just going to do it until basically the eggs cook and the pork rinds are a little bit crispy. I'm going to remove them and then drain them, I guess you could say, on a paper towel lined plate. And once that's done, all the shrimp is finished. Again, I'm going to drain them and I'm going to transfer them to this wire rack that I like to use to kind of keep them crispy, so we can get some airflow through and they're not just sitting in that oil. So that's all the components done, I believe. There's the shrimp. Again, I didn't cook it too long. And the finished tacos. With the aioli sauce, I added some sliced avocado in there and some tricolor cabbage slaw and some cilantro on a tortilla. Guys had it on the traditional tortilla. Some lime and a bit more of the cabbage slaw with the aioli sauce and some tomatoes. Got some guacamole here, and this is my plate, and that was our dinner for this evening. Next night I am making some meatloaf. I've got some ground chuck, some diced up onion, and then I'm adding pork for a little bit of moisture. The ground beef I'm using is 80/20, and I'm only using about a pound of this and a pound of the pork. So we've got those two meats and the onion, and now some salt and some pepper and all of the other seasonings. Got a bit of monk fruit sweetener here. My mom has always added relish to hers, but since I'm doing, a low carb diet, I didn't want to add too much relish because of the sugars. So that's why I added the monk fruit. We've got some ketchup here to go into the meatloaf instead of a ketchup topping. Some minced and powdered onion powder. Well, that's redundant. Some onion powder. And then some garlic powder. Now, I don't have measurements for a lot of these recipes because that's really just the way how I cook. And then I've got some crushed up pork rinds here in lieu of some breadcrumbs to help loosen the texture a bit. So I'm just gonna take my hands and mix everything carefully. Try to do this as gently as possible. Make sure all the seasonings are thoroughly mixed through. Take a whiff to make sure it smells good, and then I'm going to take a little bit of this and I'm going to fry it on the stovetop to taste it, since I'm not eating raw meat. So I just take a little spoonful here, make a mini patty, and kind of taste it so that I can adjust the seasonings if I need to, since I wasn't following a specific recipe. And here is the mini patty. You can see it's nicely browned here from the stovetop. I'm going to give it a taste. I was always a taste tester when my mom made meatloaf growing up, and so this is kind of my favorite part, of course. I love meatloaf, and now that I think the seasoning is just fine, it's perfect, I'm gonna take a foil-lined loaf pan, and I lined mine with foil because my pan is actually starting to rust, so I need to get a new pan, but I didn't want that to stick to the meat, so I'm taking the meat mixture, filling it up to the top, And then I'm going to pack it down a bit so that I don't want to have too many air gaps in there and so it doesn't fall apart. I'm going to take that to the oven, 350 for about an hour and a half. And there is the finished meatloaf. It's nice and brown. It has shrunk a bit and pulled away from the walls of the pan, but it's nice and brown. And I'm just going to let that basically cool until we're ready to eat dinner in the evening. Served it with some roasted asparagus, salted and seasoned with pepper, tossed in a bit of olive oil. And then also I air fried some potatoes, and I parboiled these earlier in the morning and then seasoned them. There's salt and pepper, garlic powder and onion powder, and some paprika. And then also tossed in some olive oil before the air fryer. Served with that an aioli sauce I made of mayonnaise, a garlic powder, onion powder, lemon juice, and that was our dinner for this evening. Last and final dinner for this week, I made a green enchilada chicken soup that Rob loved. And I think it's a delicious recipe. Just taking some enchilada sauce, adding it to the chicken. Now, my chicken, skinless, boneless chicken thighs are still a bit frozen, but that's okay. And then some water. I will have the recipe for this linked down below because I did follow this recipe to a T. It's the first time I was making it. That was some chicken bouillon that I added. That went for about 6 to 8 hours. And then I'm shredding the chicken I removed from the enchilada sauce and water mixture. Just shredding it up, and then I'm going to return that to the crock pot. And that, again, that was 6 to 8 hours initially on low. Returning to the crock pot so that it heats up. And then I am now adding 4 ounces of cream cheese. This should have been softened to room temperature so that it could have melted a bit better, but I forgot to take it out. And then we've got 2 cups of Monterey Jack cheese here. The cheeses are supposed to melt and create a nice creamy sauce. And then that was also some heavy cream. You can see I had a bit of difficulty with the cream cheese because, again, I did not set it out to soften. So I kind of had a few chunks of cream cheese in my soup, but I did my best to kind of press it out and heat it up and melt it through so that it would kind of mix a little bit better. You can see the cream cheese chunks there, but I like cream cheese and I'll eat a whole block of cream cheese if you give it to me. So I mixed that up as best I could. I think next time when I do it, I will slice the cream cheese a little bit smaller chunks. But look at that ooey gooey cheesiness. It was really good. The flavor was delicious. And then the only other thing really that you need to add, or you can add to this, is some extra salsa verde if you want a little bit of spiciness, if you want it to be a bit spicier. So that's what I have here. I did not add mine to the soup. I set it on the table so that we could all adjust and add as much as we needed. I garnished with some cilantro and served with a cheese quesadilla for the guys. I don't know how many times Rob said he thought this was really good. So he even said the next day that it was still really good. So I hope you guys think the same if you give this recipe a try. I really hope you enjoyed this week's meals. If you have any questions, as usual, leave the comment down below. And please subscribe if you haven't already, and give this video a thumbs up so other people can find some meal inspiration for their family dinners. Thank you again, and I'll see you in the next video.